What's going on? What's happening? What's going on out there? What's good? What's good? Welcome to this fine Friday edition of BS with Hannas. I'm looking at my video. There it goes. It was choppy for a second while I run the audio test. What's going on? Good morning. It's a Friday morning, earlier than usual for sure, which is a good thing. And it's foggy. It's a foggy ass morning out here when I got my audio. Nice. Cool. Got audio first try. Right on. Welcome. The whole premise of this show is that this is Good Morning B. Hannas. What's up? I'm Nicky B. Hannas. This is the BS with B. Hannas YouTube channel / podcast. I go live on YouTube at some point in the mornings, and then I shoot it out to Spotify podcast, Apple podcast, Amazon Audible, so on and so forth. Primarily, I make music. I affectionately refer to it as heavy blues metal. You can find that at nickybhannas.com, nickybhannas.bandcamp.com, Nicky B. Hannas on all streaming services. Premise of this show is I like to wake up and take a nice walk, sit around and read some good shit in the morning, come out of here, talk to the people, go to the gym, lift some weights, and then go to work, go about my business. So that's the whole premise of this. So welcome. Today in particular, I got up a little extra early. I was hoping to catch the full moon in the morning hours, which is a rare thing, but it's a pretty cool thing. But then I walk outside my house this morning, like 5:15 in the morning, take my walk. Foggy. Fog city out there. So I couldn't see shit. But birds were chirping. Animals were running around. Seen a bunch of deer, a bunch of little rabbits. Lots of birds. So, I like that shit. I like that in the morning. A little bit of nature-induced positivity as I roam the suburbs. But it's all good. Get some steps under my feet, get my day going. Then I got back and had to pay some bills and shit. Today is an interesting day in the bill-paying world for me because I went to Westchester University for an undergraduate degree. I should get my degree. I should hang my fucking degree right up here. You'll see my, it's my glamorous, prestigious liberal arts degree. I think my degree actually technically is in the it's quote unquote professional studies because I was a slacker in my early 20s. Not even that I was a slacker, but all my, I wasn't using my powers for good, let's just say. I was much more concerned with rocking and rolling and playing in a band. And, I moved out of my pops' crib pretty early. I moved out of my own when I was 20. Been living with roommates and shit ever since. But I had just moved out and I was going to school full time and working 50, 60 hours a week in a pizza shop. School took a back seat next to endeavors, let's just call them, I party my ass off. I was very distracted by drinking and drugging and fucking chasing that life. I had a lot of fun. Man. But there comes a tax on that. So all things considered, the tax, what would you call the tax on it? Quite literally, I guess the tax on how I spent my time and used my energy. I guess that would call it the interest rate, the interest rate on your student loan balance total. But we'll get to that. And I went to school. My declared major was English education with a declared minor in African American literature. English teacher, that's the idea of it at least. Until I got my DUI when I was almost 22. So I didn't even make it a full year being of legal age to drink before I got booked by PA state troopers. Shame on me. And there's stories, many stories within that narrative, of course, but it is what it is. And I would continue the court case and try and post it off because in my mind I had 1 year left to finish, And then when I went to that semester that fall, between legal letters and lawyer fees and still having to work, still having bills to pay. Welcome to the real world, motherfucker. Yeah, I went crazy and just dropped out to my own chagrin. And it was an interesting thing because here I am dealing with this, like I wrote in my own song Hype Train, paying tax on living out my songs. And I'm sitting in a classroom next to all these nice, well-to-do, seemingly well-adjusted people, disproportionately women, nice little girls, going to school to be early grades education teachers. And I'm just the more I talk and the more I observe myself on camera and listen back to myself, I have this pirate fucking type of demeanor. And here I am probably smelling like cigarettes from the indoor bar. The one, shout out to Jake's Bar, Westchester, way back in the day, right down by the campus. where you could get $1 beer and smoke cigarettes inside. I'd go there in between classes and shit, like a real well-to-do future educator of the youth of our country. So I'd come into class and be like fucking just mad, just looking around, continually focused on my peers and where I would line up and all that, and thinking about court cases and having to go to work, and yeah, fucking dropped right out. So then a bunch of years pass while I primarily ignore my student loans like an asshole, just totally, completely, unabsolvably irresponsible. This is when I I had to go on probation. There was no way I could have done county probation, having to go piss in cups for the government or outpatient rehab centers while simultaneously being a student teacher. That shit wasn't going to happen, dude. So this is when I say my life has been interesting. This is what I refer to, because this is all my early to mid 20s. So whatever. I eventually went back. 2018, I went back to Westchester and pretty much just hit up my advisors and said, "Yo, can I I only need a few more credits. What can we do here? I'm sure these programs are outdated or whatever, but like, can I just bang out one quick semester and at least get my fucking degree?" I didn't like the idea of leaving something unfinished. I didn't like the idea of starting something with tremendous impact. I mean, the fucking student loan problem, I've bitched and complained about it on here, I think, before. It's a problem that affects not just me, but it affects a lot of other motherfucking people, and it affects society at large, and it continues to drive the public discourse on fucking politics and culture, whatever, like it's a big thing. And it's a very interesting thing because a lot of people, the old people who fucking didn't have to deal with the current state of things, let's just say, old heads will be like, "Well, I went to school, I got a job and worked, and I paved my own way. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps." I know. We all know, boomers. We get it. We get it. You guys just are the fucking God's gift to the world. You guys had this unmistakable grit and rigid work. We understand it. Okay. Thank you for your input. And I know that you think I'm an entitled, dumb, young millennial punk who fucking is entitled to things and takes out a loan without being. Let's not consider the way that the fucking government allocates funds or the whole joke of a political. Like, there's just so much in there. And for me, it makes me emotional sometimes. It makes me emotional because it's all some bullshit. But it ain't neither here nor there, because at the end of the day, who fucking cares? My duty is my own duty. My life is my own life. And I don't want to default on my student loans, because then you carry that with you the rest of your life, insofar as FICO scores and credit scores. And I'm kind of a rube in this world. I'm not super educated. For all my education, I'm still kind of dumb sometimes. But I'm not, that shit follows you. That shit follows you and dictates your buying power and your loan power and your borrowing and so on and so on and so forth. Because that's just the way that the system is. That's just the way that the motherfucker set up. I never applied for a credit score. Maybe I just wanted to operate on a cash and carry basis. Maybe this, maybe that. Where's the gold? What's the money backed by? How about the petrodollar? What's up with the Fed? What's up with the Fed? What's up with the Fed? Like, the money fucking conversations, super interesting. This shit never ends. It ends up being an external thing. And when I listen to people talk about money and prosperity in a spiritual sense, if not a religious one, but let's just call it a spiritual one, that served me well in my life, the Napoleon Hills of the world. I got a whole stash of fucking books back here. Wallace D. Waddles. There's some good stuff back here. Who else I got? Joseph Murphy, some Neville Goddard. Yeah, man. Like, what's that? Charles Hinnell, the Master Key System. Money's an interesting thing. What's the one famous book? The Richest Man in Babylon. George Clason, I think, wrote that. Yeah. So anyway, I say all that to say my life has been interesting. I would rather have finished college than not have finished it. So I finished it so I can go put fries in bags and keep working on my mixtape. So that's what I'm fucking doing. I get up and I take a walk and I read some books, talk to the people, go lift some weights, and then I go to work running a motherfucking burger joint. So anyway, that's what's going on. I made my first motherfucking student loan payment today, and then I started looking into it, because after I just put it off and put it off and put it off and put it off, I'm like, dude, this has to get handled. The more I procrastinate this, the more I just ignore it. And over COVID, it's, This is all before considering stimulus checks, before considering the pause on the need to collect student loans and fucking interest rates. And there's so much there. I was negligent. Shame on me. At the end of the day, I was a fucking mess personally, psychologically, how I was living, so on and so forth. Kept strumming my guitar throughout all of it, trying to do the right things through all of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, time to pay the motherfucking piper. So I got logged in and I paid the student loans. Woo! Where's my participation trophy? Well, that shut the boomers the fuck up. Look at me. I'm contributing. I'm paying it back, doing my civic duty. But in any event, when they sent me the receipt was very interesting to me because I looked at it, right? And it was, so here's your email receipt confirmation of payment. And then at the bottom, it said AidVantage. AidVantage is the student loan payment like collection service, right? So AidVantage is the company. And when I looked at it, though, it said copyright. What the fuck do they call it? Maximus Education. Maximus Education is not a name that I had seen in all of my just perusings and readings and, participating in the system. So I looked into it. AidVantage is the DBA name. Not that I know much about legitimate business, but I've looked into forming an LLC. So you form a company, an LLC, a limited liability company, and you have the option of selecting a DBA, doing business as. So it turns out that AidVantage is the doing business as name for Maximus Education LLC. That was super interesting to me. Who the fuck is running Maximus Education LLC? Little bits of looking into it took me to usaspending.gov. Now, I'm not literate in reading government contracts or things of that nature, so I'm just looking at it, trying to make sense of it. And it turns out that Maximus LLC was contracted by the Federal Department of Education from 2019 to 2024 to manage the student loan repayment. And apparently, it's a huge company, a private company, huge company. And they are also involved in Social Security and Medicare and other. It seems to be an administrative arm run by a third-party contractor for the government, specifically the DOE, to manage their affairs and their debts paid, accounts received, payments collectibles, whatever. This is all just this morning. I'm looking into it. I fucking give them some money and end up in a Wikipedia AI Google result spiral, just digging in. So this is what I found. They were awarded for this 2019 to 2024 period. If I read things correctly, allegedly, they were awarded a contract of $762 million from the DOE. But as I was like looking through the paint, because you can go to this website and it has a whole itemized, like, here's the disbursement of money, here's what it's used for, here's the terms pursuant to section, subsection, whatever. There's a lot. As I got to the end of it, there's a lot of instances of what they call funding and then de-obligation of funding. Now, I wish I knew what the fuck that meant. I would love to have more actual useful information that I could tell people. But really, what's the fucking function of it? Is it just going to fucking rev people up? Shit, it revs me up a little bit. Because then I start looking, who's the CEO? Who runs this motherfucking company? Not that I hate CEOs, not that I hate wealth, not that I hate business people, but you have to recognize at a certain level, this is where the old school monopolies came from. And what's a monopoly besides fucking a cartel and a gang? You know what I mean? Like a closed group of people who just run the motherfucking game. So really my thinking is not so much down with the CEO, down with the rich, down with the bourgeois. Nothing like that. But who's running the game at the behest of the government? Interesting. I find this interesting, at least. Turns out the CEO's name is Bruce Caswell, who allegedly, since AI on Google gives you like the most asked questions, one of them was how much does he make a year? Allegedly, he makes $10 million a year. Right on. Is he but like there's a trope here, right? The one is this the big bad boogeyman of the rich CEO extracting resources from the little people, from the peons in the society? Are we just serfs in this massive system? Probably, but it's interesting to me, all the motherfucking same. And I'm doing my part. So like let's pump the brakes on that shit. He got a bachelor's degree in economics from Haverford College, which is pretty close to where I'm at. It's in the Philadelphia area. And apparently Haverford's a very exclusive school. So at least this guy's a smart dude. At least he's not a dummy. Notable alumni that I looked up really quick from Haverford College includes Alex Karp, who founded and started Palantir. Palantir's all over the news right now, so that's fascinating to me. And then he went from Haverford College to Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. The Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. This all sounds very exclusionary to me. What's the famous words from George Carlin? It's a big club and you ain't in it. Fair enough. Now, Wikipedia said that Harvard's Kennedy School of Government is a quote unquote private nonprofit public policy school. Okay. Also very exclusive. Just a master's degree, though, So, whatever the distinction is between a master's degree and a PhD or doctorate degree, I guess that depends on what track of education you're actually on. But I digress. Notable, this is where it's interesting to me. Notable alumni of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government includes John Fetterman, who's all over the motherfucking news, Pete Hegseth, who is all over the motherfucking news, and Klaus Schwab, who, if you don't trust the news, is all over the motherfucking news. Very interesting. And then as you're looking down the list, it's like dozens of prime ministers and presidents and fucking like high-ranking government officials of other countries. There's something really strange going on here. So this bull's just one of them. He's not as high profile as Fetterman or Hegseth or Klaus Schwab, the motherfucking like Jedi Sith Lord that he is. The World Economic Forum, whatever the fuck they actually do. But this CEO seems to be one of them, running the LLC, not a corporation, not an incorporated. Well, I guess an incorporated is some type of LLC. But I don't know. Once you get into the business legalism, very interesting. So an LLC is running the whole collection arm of the United States government Department of Education. Fascinating stuff. So I guess my, what would make the boomers happy if I gave a good old salute? Said, I'm doing my duty, just like some Starship Troopers shit. I'm doing my part. Anyway, that was my fucking morning. And then I got to read. And then I was like, dude, fuck this. Like I'm doing all right with the money, but I ain't doing lavish. I'm not wealthy by any stretch of means. So, it's not the biggest deal in the world to pay this money, but it ain't fucking ideal neither. So after giving my money to the man or the man's man, however you want to phrase it, I started to read. And I was thinking about what I said yesterday about Richard Carlson, who wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. So I looked him up. And, he was like what did I say yesterday? I said, I didn't think he was a hard man. He sounded kind of like a soft man. Don't sweat the small stuff. Well, then I learned he died. So I felt like an asshole. So I should not speak ill of the dead like that. Shame on me. My man, Richard Carlson, wrote a lot of books. It seems like the Small Stuff series is very similar to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, where it's like there's the original Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Then there's Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for children. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for teenagers, so on and so forth. Damn it. Bull died at 45 from a pulmonary embolism. That's fucking horrible, dude. So I guess it's really cool to have a life's work to leave behind you, if nothing else in that situation. But here I am like an asshole immediately on YouTube. I'm like, yeah, he didn't sound very tough. Yo, homie died at 45. Take it easy. So that's a lesson to me to just pump my fucking brakes and get out of my own way. That's just a bad way of thinking. But in any event, I was reading Don't Sweat the Small Stuff today. And just like the section I talked about yesterday included, what was the phrase? Don't turn your not don't turn. Rather, the phrase he emphasized was turn your melodrama into mellow drama. There was a whole section just on that today. And there were a couple things that I liked about that. He describes melodrama as quote unquote an extravagantly theatrical play in which action and plot predominate. True that. And that's the hysterics that people, myself included, I'm a dramatic fucking dude. I know it. I know that I am. His takeaway was sometimes his soap opera is starting. Every now and then when what he referenced at least, he would say that when I start to take myself too serious and I feel that feeling coming up, telling oneself that my soap opera is starting, and that takes the edge off. And that's very, very wise. That is very, very wise. So I'm going to try to incorporate that, because you don't want to be a soap opera fucking actor. Everything's bad. It induces the spiraling, too much of that shit. We got to stop spiraling out here. I thought that was good, which tied directly into my daily Stoic reading today. The idea of what the fuck was it? See, I just put my phone down. Now I got to reread it. An extravagantly theatrical play in which action and plot predominate. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And that could be a really good thing if you flip it on its fucking head. An extravagantly theatrical play in which action and plot predominate. So Ryan Holiday gives us a quote from Epictetus. So Epictetus in this quote is referring to Socrates. So I'm going from Richard Carlson to Ryan Holiday to Epictetus to Socrates. That's what I'm doing out here in the motherfucking morning. Epictetus says, but what does Socrates say? Just as one person delights in improving his farm and another his horse, so I delight in attending to my own improvement day by day. That's right. That could be melodramatic sometimes if it's a fucking action movie. Now, is your action movie one where you're the protagonist, or are you a fucking passive character at best? That's kind of what it is. And in terms of developing one's own improvement, energy has something to do with that. We want high energy, right? Me and my boss have a joke where we just dislike low energy people, what I call the Eeyore people. I get into that sometimes, and it's a battle to get myself out. That's the soap opera bullshit, An extravagantly theatrical play of life in which action and plot predominate. Well, that stands to me that we should predominate our lives with action to a worthwhile plot. That's what I'm getting as I synthesize all this stuff, which also ties in with reading as I continue down Embrace the Suck. Kind of like the sucky fact that some dude just fired up his fucking lawnmower, but that's okay. Brent Gleason says, we cloak ourselves in mediocrity when we are unwilling to embrace the challenges that stand in our way of greatness. That's right. We cloak ourselves in mediocrity. Been there, done that. Real easy. Once upon a time, I'd have made a fucking student loan payment and been like, fuck, I got no money to... And then the whole soap opera bullshit starts, man. So we gotta be mindful of that. 23 minutes. I'm breaking my 20-minute rule. Ah, shit. I was talking too much about these fuckers that run the debt collection services. As if debt collection is a new thing. As if being a debtor is a new thing. This shit all goes back to the OG books in the world anyway, man. Yeah, man. So I found a unique thread between all of those. One that's very applicable to my life, at least. And if it's applicable to my life, presupposing I'm not so damn special, maybe it's useful. Maybe it's useful to frame it all like that. We should live a life that's a theatrical play in which action and plot predominate, but we don't have to. It doesn't have to be that way. And if action and plot dominate your life, positive actions, worthwhile plot, I think that's useful. Day by day, we fucking build that plot and, embrace challenges and shit. Do the right thing. The challenge right now is fucking wrapping this up cohesively without totally floundering, but that's all good. I think I'm done here. Happy motherfucking Friday. Today is what? July 11th? 7-Eleven? 7-Eleven day? Bush did 7-Eleven. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. One love. Happy motherfucking Friday. This has been a fine Friday edition of BS with B. Hannas. You can find this on YouTube, BS with B. Hannas. Good morning, B. Hannas. That's me, Nikki B. Hannas. On YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Amazon Audible. You can find my music at nickybhannas.com, nickybhannas.bandcamp.com, Nikki B. Hannas on all streaming services. I'm going to shoot this one out with Crawling Out of Hell. One love. Happy Friday. Peace.